it's just crazy that, again, I would be really curious out of 100 people, how many have just sort of just sat through and watched this, and sort of how that then manifests itself to how large populations of a society will just believe what they want to believe,
Yeah.
or not necessarily have their attention given to this because it's just not worth their attention. If I'm a busy, lawyer working, 50, 60 hours, and when am I going to think, I should investigate whether the moon landing was real or not? No, no one's going to care. So it's sort of just tucked away, in history. But all this is the external stuff that just doesn't seem to add up. But what's fascinating, I really liked what he said, though. Like what he said stuck with me too. And
I just can't tell you how proud we all are of what you have done. For every American, this has to be the proudest day of our lives. And for people all over the world, I am sure that they too join with Americans in recognizing what an immense feat this is.
there it was. It's such a beautifully crafted message because it conveys the spirit of achievement of mankind, of humanity doing this.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it says to the rest of the world that they too will join America in celebrating this. Now, why that's important, again, what's the big deal? All you did was you got to the moon first, but it's the triumph of our ideology beat your ideology. We are a byproduct. The way our society works, the way our economy works, the way we govern, the byproduct of that is us getting to the moon before y'all. And that's why we win. And that's why there was and remember, it's not just these two isolated countries that just, hey, we're better than you. There was a battle over the masses of territory. Why was Vietnam a war? Because there was North and South Vietnam to spread these ideologies, There was a sense of Soviets are gaining ground. They have this country. Now they're that. The North and South Korea type thing. It's like the rest of the world are just these territories to be played with. Like, oh, we get that space. No, you get that space. And it started off with that whole Operation Clip or Paperclip in Germany, where you take all these folks away. And now it's like, we have to take them before the Soviets get to them. When you think about the Vietnam War, when you think and why this resonates with me so much is, Dad told me a story about when he was young and how there are these random people like Hmong elders that they'd have guns and they look like they're official, and he was caught up in that war too. But again, our Hmong folks, we were in Laos. We weren't a part of the official Vietnam War. We call it a secret war because it wasn't supposed to be in the books. It never happened. Vietnam was the only war that should have happened because it's what was sanctioned by Congress. But it's like, but Vietnam's not enough for the U.S. There's also the battle for neighboring Laos and stuff. So let's have the secret wars on the side. And so Hmong folks were, recruited by the American government, but also the Soviets recruited Hmong too. And so there was a battle between Hmong people there were red Hmong and the blue Hmong or whatever. There was the Soviet Hmong and all that. And Dad was telling me how he would remember the leaders of the American side would come and say, hey, who wants to volunteer today? And all he had to do was just go. He said he was like only 14 or 15 and he wasn't really old enough to fight. But he's like, they would tell Dad that you don't have to fight. You just have to stand in line with these people so it looks like we have enough heads so that then we'll get some compensation and some money for support. Yeah. But you don't actually have to fight. So Dad was just telling me like the circus of not understanding what's actually happening and just being caught up in something. Like, just go line up over there. When they say your name or something, just raise your hand and say these words. And then, but for the rest of the day, you're off. And then we'll give you $1 for that. And then he told me that there are these other stories that, caught up with all that happening was that the members of the community would go out and they would go to these battles, like the older men in the community, and they would, be gone for days or something. And they would tell Dad when they returned the story that oftentimes they would meet in a battlefield at night with the opposing Hmong Soviet forces. And they would just sort of shoot at the sky together because to make it sound like they're in battle. Because they don't know what they're fighting for. Yeah. They're just like, oh, yeah. And then, like, what is this communism? Like, let's just use our ammo up and shoot up at the moon. And they would just use all their ammo up and they'd come back. And maybe there was some actual fighting a little bit here and there. But for the most part, that was it. But that's a microcosm of the divide and conquer of the world, the Soviet versus American Cold War that even in these Hmong villages, that these humble Hmong villages, they don't even got their own country. There's just these Hmong huts and villages in the mountaintops of Laos.
No sense of centralized government
Yep.
or laws or rules, just nomads living off the land, you know, just
We're recruiting them too. So
Yep.
there's red Soviet Hmong, there's American, you know, pro-America Hmong. There's all, and even they're supposed to fight each other. You
Yeah.
know? I'm like, how many Vietnamese were killed in the Vietnam War? Like so many. And so again, I'm trying to tie this all because there's all these dots out there of messaging of the evil at play in this time of year of like us talking about Halloween, but also shady things that just aren't adding right, because you think a conversation or that conversation with Nixon, it could be harmless, and it very well could be that that's just the truth. Like this is the way it happened, and it doesn't sound believable, because sometimes that's true too. The unbelievable is also believable, but it's like swaying the masses in opinion is like that great evil that I keep seeing that as a recurring theme.